Good morning, everybody. My name is Michael Keller. I'm the Director of Social Emotional Support at Laguna Beach Unified, so I get to work with an incredible team of school social workers, and we've got several of them speaking with you today about the important intersection between mental health, student wellness, and environmental life. And so the importance of that is that we know that students, when they're feeling like they belong and that they are engaged in learning, that they can thrive in school and in life. So we have a really exciting presentation for you today. If I can advance the slide. Oh, this is me. So I'm, again, really honored to work with this incredible team. I also want to, in a second, I'll introduce Yvonne Radar. She's our coordinator of family engagement. She's really the key leader of the Family Resource Center, this incredible space that you're seeing today. Just for some logistics, there's a restroom right over there if you need it, and of course coffee and refreshments if you would like to help yourself to that this morning. I want you to feel comfortable and welcome to this incredible space. So this is a great investment for the school district, and really appreciate the Board of Education support in honoring this space and making it welcoming for families. So thank you for being here. This is my family. We love being outside. I think that being out in the environment is really important, and we're going to hear a lot about the really important health impacts of being outside. Of course, we're celebrating some really important Earth Month this month, and so we'll talk a little bit more about that. Oh, of course, I introduced Yvonne Radar, and I also want to introduce Alma Figueroa, who's our community liaison. Alma is also the warm, welcoming face in the Family Resource Center. She's always a resource here, personing the front office and making sure that families are feeling welcome and supported in all things related to their school life in Laguna Beach Unified. So welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
So today we're going to be covering a variety of different topics that you can see up here, but really the topic is about emotional wellness and the intersection of emotional wellness and the environment. We're going to hear some really important research from Dr. Jafari from UCI, and hear from our staff members about how we're thinking about the environmental experience, that's being outside, and integrating that into the health and wellness experiences that our students get to have every day in school. And I want to anchor our conversation today, and this is our learner profile. So learner profile is our vision for all students. And on the outer ring of this, these are conditions for learning. We want our learning experiences for all students to be authentic, personalized. Of course, we want it to be equitable and inclusive. We want students to feel like they belong in school and that they're welcomed every day, that they're the people that we serve every day. And we think about this in a competency-based way. So historically, school is designed to really compare students to other students, and really we want to think about the learning experience to be personalized, meaning that students develop competencies and expertise in all these areas. We want them to be constructive collaborators, empowered learners, creative problem solvers, empathetic citizens, and effective communicators. And we want that through the total school experience, from transitional kindergarten, or even we have a preschool program now, all the way up to when they graduate, so they can carry those skills on in life. And it is my pleasure to introduce Gloria Harwood, our Coordinator of Environmental Literacy, who's going to be sharing all the important work that we're doing in this area. She had an incredible presentation last night for the Board of Education. If you get an opportunity to go back and watch that, I highly encourage you to do that. It really talks about the incredible integration of environmental literacy into all of our schools. And I welcome up Gloria.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. Hi, I'm Gloria, and if you have students at the elementary level or high school or middle, they might know me as Miss Glow. But I am our coordinator of environmental literacy, and so part of my role, I'm going to move over here, in the district is to support instructional design with the environmental principles and concepts. A little bit about me. I am an avid surfer, snowboarder, and I really use nature as a context of just being connected with either relationships or rooting myself back into a safe space with my mental health. And I did that ever since I was a kid. And my own backstory, when I was an elementary learner, I struggled in reading comprehension and really wasn't connected in school, and my mom worked in Capo Unified, and so she was like, how are we gonna get this girl connected? And so I actually went through my high school experience with one of my English teachers getting me connected to an issue in San Clemente, where I grew up, on stopping the 241 toll road. Do you guys remember that initiative? Well, the reason why I got so passionate about this is because my home was this beach right here, Trestles, California, and I would go there almost every day after school, and so when I had this as a context of learning with my English teacher, I wrote papers on it, and I was like, oh, you know what? I see the connection between learning and the environment, and that led me into studying science in my undergrad, and then getting a master's degree in environmental science and doing research in air quality management. And so I just wanted to put that back into context, that students at every single age are connected to the environment. So some guidelines for today. Together we're going to embrace every voice, build a safe space, and collaborate and celebrate. So sharing ideas, offering feedback, and celebrate our growth together. And these are not new, because these were on the flyer when we released our survey, but just some learning objectives. We're going to understand how nature supports student mental health through research-based insights. We're going to learn how LBUSD integrates outdoor experiences into student wellness initiatives, explore practical ways to encourage nature at home, discover simple mindfulness and outdoor activities to reduce stress and improve focus, and then engage in an interactive Q&A with Dr. Jafari, who I'll introduce in just a moment, and the LBUSD student support specialists. So today, through the second half of our presentation, we have a phenomenal guest from UCI, Dr. Jafari, who I actually emailed Dr. Jafari. I said, I want more information on your program. It sounds amazing. And she actually welcomed our social emotional learning teams from all sites to UCI, and we got to meet the team through the Nature Wellness Program at UCI with Dr. Venice Ego and also Dr. Jessica Pratt from different departments of UCI, biology, ecology, and also pharmacology. So I cannot wait to hear and have Dr. Jafari share out her research. Before we get into it, I just want to tap into a question. How do you personally connect with nature? Obviously in Laguna, we have an amazing access to beaches, hills, also community events, cultural events. Those are all tied and rooted back to nature. So personally, think about, how do you connect with nature? Think about it and then share with the person next to you. Waterfall, waterfall, waterfall. So I'm so happy you guys had a moment to share out some connections with nature. If we have any brave responses that want to share how we connect in Laguna, does anyone want to share your experiences with nature and how we can connect? Sure.
I sometimes am lucky enough to go to yoga in the park.
Oh, so nice.
At Bluebird Park, they do it on Saturdays. My old neighbor does it. It's amazing. Like, just to be outside and hear all the sounds, and when I'm laying out, look at the trees and just take a moment and be in the present. And that's the way, when I'm lucky enough, that's how I get to do it.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, we have a similar yoga in the park in San Clemente at the Casa Romantica. Have you ever heard of Casa Romantica? So that's a great example of like tying in both nature, and then there's that cultural piece of like historic landmarks, and that shows that we have a thriving community when people can engage together in an activity that promotes both physical and mental health. It's amazing. Anyone else want to share? Sure.
Okay. I grew up here, so I'm lucky enough to now raise my kids here in town, and a beach day for us. Like, I'll never forget our neighbors one 4th of July. All 5 of my family members were like together in the ocean, and I was just yelling like, "This is my dream! Like, this is everything! This is my core!" And the neighbor came over after, and she's like, "I was on the sand and I heard your excitement." So that's like a reset. Like, a good beach day with my family is just everything, and it means so much to me personally. It shows me what we're striving for, why we're here, and my kids appreciate it. They love it just as much as I do.
Yeah. Can I share an experience with Tom that, so I had one of Emily's sons in my class years ago, and they had a mammoth trip driving, and Tom emailed me a photo of a volcano, and he said, is this, I nicknamed the volcano Cindy, because it's a cinder cone volcano, and then he took a photo of it, emailed it to me, he said, is this Cindy? And I'm like, oh my gosh, it is Cindy. And so, but kids are so observant of just different features of nature, and that's a relationship we build, and having that connection, and having the family connection, and that's amazing.
That was like in COVID as well, and so he's a senior at the high school now, and he still comes to her and is like, she is just, I love seeing her, I love her presence in the district, so. It's all circle. Well, and I also got to see her amazing presentation last night, so oh my gosh, it's everywhere, all these connections, these skills.
Anyone else want to share before we move on? Yeah.
We just got back. I took my granddaughter to Oregon to visit a friend, not realizing how far away from Portland she was out in the mountains and stuff. And one day we took a hike tour with a ranger to petroglyphs, and I have this video of my granddaughter just hiking away right behind the ranger, and I got the biggest kick out of it. I was so tickled.
Yeah.
She was enjoying it.
Yeah. Oh, that's amazing.
And learning at the same time.
Yes, yeah, and that's a big piece of what we're going to share out is having the kids rooted in nature provides a lot of learning experiences, but also that social emotional support as well. So in our district, we have 3 overarching sustainability goals, and today we're really going to be focusing on goal number 2. The first goal is reducing environmental impacts and costs, and these are all rooted within both facilities and our instructional practices in the classroom. Goal 2 is promoting health and wellness of students and staff, and that's what we're doing today, making sure that our students are happy and healthy and using those strategies back into nature to support that. And then goal 3 is providing effective sustainability education, which I'm going to share out about in just a moment. And we have specific strategic targets when we look at these 3 goals. There's 18 different targets. It's a lot, but going into goal 2, our targets are physical health, mental health, environmental health, nutrition, community engagement, and outdoor spaces. So what these targets provide for our design team is metrics and like baseline data of how we can support students in that realm of goal 2. And if you were in the board meeting last night, this slide looks familiar. So we use different strategies through instructional design. So with my particular role in the district, I support teachers designing lessons and projects and place-based experiences tied back into our learner profile. So when Dr. Keller shared the outside circle, that's what I do on instructional design. So providing experiences for teachers to get the kids connected, having communication and relationships with different partnerships to get the students outside. So some experiences that you might see are garden lessons at the elementary and middle school sites. We work with Miss Kelly Osborne to provide at least 6 lessons per year for every single classroom for the students. And then we also have extracurriculars within our Flex tutorial at Thurston with the middle school junior master gardeners. We had junior master gardeners last year at TOW, and a lot of great student engagement with our outdoor spaces. Next month is Living Schoolyards Month, so each site has a green team. It's a form of student leadership at every school, and they're going to be doing school ground assessments. So they're going to be measuring temperature on the ground, how much access we have to natural grass versus synthetic turf, access to shade, access to seating, and what this is going to provide is a student-based assessment so we can have accessible zones in our school for teachers to feel comfortable to do outdoor lessons. And so, but it's all
so smart.
Yeah, so it's all student-based.
Really cool.
Thank you. Yeah, we did a couple sites last year, but now this next month we'll be doing all 4 sites having a full report. And it's all student-led, so it's great. And then Ms. Humphreys will be discussing some vertical articulation experiences that we had at the high school back into the elementary school with our One World experience. And our goal is just making sure that teachers and students feel like we have spaces on our campus that isn't just our classroom, but we can get them outside, because obviously outside time promotes mental health benefits that Dr. Jafari will be going into. So that's what I do, and it's a lot of fun, and I get to connect with a lot of different students and teachers. We had a film showcase at the Rivian last month, and FLOW is our high school environmental literacy program that connects ELA students to a specific environmental theme. And freshmen is fire, sophomores are land, juniors are ocean, and then seniors are water. So we bring in specific partnerships to build out this community place-based experience where the students get to engage in some type of impact in the community. So our freshmen design tote bags for defensible spaces for fire, and the top 5 tote bags get to be distributed throughout the community. I think we have I forget how many, I think 2,000 tote bags that will probably be going to your home soon. And that was all funded by the Water District. And then the sophomores will have their Ode to Waste at the Celebration of Arts. I really recommend coming a little bit early at 5:30 to hear it. Some of their odes are all their odes are amazing, but they also get to hear from OC Waste and Recycling from a panel at the end, and then they earn a Civic Seal Award. So if you have time before the Celebrations of Art, stop on by. And then this specific project was a film where students had to look at a specific ocean impact. And a lot of students chose topics like ocean acidification, ecotourism, plastic pollution, impacts of tourism, especially last summer we had a huge impact of tourism, and then also rising sea temperatures. But this group was really unique, and they won an award for how unique they were. They actually chose mental health as their ocean impact. So I'm going to show the video, and thank you, Con. And yeah. All of our students are so, I'm going to cry. I get so just emotional because I'm so proud of these students and the work that we're doing both as a community of parents and our student support specialists, our mental health teams. They just do such an amazing job where it's translating into these learning experiences for students. So, all right, and I'm going to pass it, speaking of our mental health specialists in our district, I'm going to pass it along to Miss Michonne at UW.
Okay, thank you, Flo. Hi, I'm Miss Amelia. I'm the student support specialist at Top of the World. So I help support students and families with mental health support, parent education, things like that. I love plants. I have a bunch of plants at home. They're my children. And this is me in the natural environment, just like always snapping pictures. And this is a picture of over the summer at our Top of the World garden. I was like, I never knew how raspberries and blackberries grew, and neither did the kids, and I was so excited about that. Okay, so let's dive into what mental health looks like at the elementary school level, at least at Top of the World. So these are some of the top referrals or reasons that I would collaborate with parents and meet with students for counseling. So we see a huge need for emotional regulation, family relationships, maybe changes in the family dynamics, whether it's new siblings or divorce, peer relationships, just having to learn conflict resolution, disagreeing with others, but still coexisting together. And then growth mindset. You know, as each grade goes up, they're learning new things. Sometimes they can get discouraged, so teaching them how to persist and feel confident about themselves. And then again, parent coaching and parenting skills. I'm always collaborating. We have a lot of resources within the district, such as parenting classes and the Family Resource Center, the book club, that we kind of poke our head in, and as well as digital citizenship. And I bring these ones up as well because even in our book club, we're talking about, we read Anxious Generation. Recently, we were talking about going outside and being in nature. And same with digital citizenship, right? Like that's all about how to behave online, but then we also talked about healthy boundaries with the online world, and then hence stepping out in nature, engaging in our coping skills. So there's so many different topics that we talk about within the district and support parents, and some way they always come back to nature and being in nature. So, what mental health looks like in the elementary school setting and kind of combining those nature-based interventions. Again, emotional regulation is a huge need, and so combining that with nature is like, okay, you're having a tough time in the classroom, let's go for a walk, and especially like touching the natural environment, like let's feel the texture of these leaves, let's feel the sun in our skin, and it's just very grounding for students. And there's so many parallels, and you can like make it very playful in the garden. Like, okay, you're feeling really silly like a worm, so we're gonna wiggle it out like a worm. Or just there's like maybe a bee, like you're buzzing around like a bee, and then maybe you landed on someone and you stung somebody. Okay, how are we gonna repair that relationship? So it's just it makes things playful, and it makes it developmentally appropriate. So putting it in a language that they could understand, it really grabs their attention. I had a hilarious moment just this week of a student who was having a peer conflict, but she wasn't really ready to talk about it. And so we went for a walk, and we're sitting, and there were these two birds that were just like yapping at each other. And I was like, oh my gosh, I turned to the student, I was like, what do you think they're talking about? Like, do you think they're having a fight right now? And then they were able to like process like how we would resolve the conflict. And so that was like perfect timing. But it's just like, you have to be creative with it, but the kids are really responsive to it, and it just makes they're learning, they're developing their emotional vocabulary. Sometimes they don't understand what anxiety is or their anger, but it's putting it into terms that they understand. So it's been really fun and playful for me as well. I love being in that environment. Help students feel connected and purposeful. It's like when they're taking care of a plant, it's just very rewarding to see it grow, and you're giving it fertilizer, and what does it need to be successful? And again, it's that parallel of like, how can they feel connected and purposeful within themselves and just taking care of something else? I had a student they were raking leaves in the garden, and they were just like they're like, we're helping Mother Nature right now, we're helping the earth. And I was like, oh my God, I love that hope and that like whimsy that's in their eyes. I'm like, there's a lot that goes into saving the earth, but I love that they're like feeling like they're contributing and they're feeling connected to their environment. And again, sparks curiosity. Sparked curiosity for me, like, wow, I didn't know that this is how berries grow, or oh my gosh, what type of tree is this? It looks like an orange tree, but it's actually a lemon tree. What type of bugs, help with the preservation of this plant? And over summer school, the power went out one day, and so I was like, oh my gosh, what do I do? I was like, we're going to the garden, let's go, everyone round up. And they just came to life, like they had otherwise been like kind of down, they're feeling down about going to summer school, they want to be out with their friends, but they came to life, they were running around the garden, they were just so excited to touch things and like see how things grow. They were like pleading with me, they're like, don't take any other students here, like this is just special to me. They were like pleading with me. And even after school, they were talking to the administrator, and they were showing her all the things that they picked from the garden. And the administrator was like, oh my gosh, that student, I haven't seen them smile these past 3 weeks. And she was so excited to share out. So it's just, I've seen kids come to life just being in the garden, feeling more grounded. So these are the main ways that I see it work out in the elementary school setting. And it's just fun and playful. I love seeing things come to life. I know Dr. Jafari is going to talk more about this, but these are some nature-centric activities that we might do at the elementary school level. So of course, it's the gardening aspect, like physically taking care of the plants, mixing soil, things like that. It could be arts and crafts. So you're making crafts with the things that you're finding in the garden. You're collecting leaves and stones, or you're like doing arts and crafts to contribute to the garden, like painting signs or painting rocks to decorate. And then, of course, this is where I mainly focus on is the mindfulness. So doing some deep breathing in the garden, going for a walk, touching the different textures to help them feel grounded, listening to the sounds of the birds or the bees buzzing around. But yeah, that's, I think, my section with nature-centered activities. And now, what it looks like in the middle school.
All right.
Sweet tea here. Thanks, Amelia. So I'm Miranda Craig. I'm at the middle school, Thurston Middle School. Some of you know me as a parent here. You see my family up there. I live here in the school district, and I'm really grateful to be part of Thurston Middle School this school year as their student support specialist. So nature is very meaningful to me. That's why we live here close to the ocean. Every weekend, I go to Heisler Park, and I have my alone time without that family, that lovely family you see right there. I say I escape there, even just 10 or 15 minutes. Saturday and Sunday, you'll find me sitting there at Heisler Park on a bench or walking around or just barefoot somewhere on the sand. Because to me, that's very grounding. I think especially as parents, we can all understand how busy our life gets and how there's so many schedules and things to navigate that it's hard to find those pockets of time. So I've tried to be really intentional about weaving that into my own life and our family's life by being close to the water and taking pictures of pelicans. Which I did take like 20, thank you.
Gosh.
20 pictures later, that was my favorite one. So I am that person that's standing there taking those pictures or staring at the ocean waiting for the dolphin to pop up and then videoing it and then watching it later. So I'm very passionate about those things and find a lot of solace in those. Let me flip ahead. So you heard from Amelia about some of the top referrals at the elementary school. What we're seeing at Thurston are anxious symptoms, depressive symptoms, family and peer relationships, concerns, and then just a need for distress tolerance support. So there are 3 counselors, school counselors at Thurston, and they will often refer a student to me if they're needing more intensive support or regular ongoing support through individual counseling or maybe more parent communication or contact or case management. So oftentimes I'll find that the students are needing more support in these areas, and we'll use traditional therapeutic interventions and practices. But then I think in relation to this presentation, a lot of what we are reviewing and diving into are coping strategies and coping tools to reduce depressive symptoms, to manage difficult peer relationships or family relationships, and coping tools for distress tolerance when those emotions are so big and beyond what we feel like we can take control over. There are some great tools through dialectical behavioral therapy that we introduce students to. But nature practices are such a great partnership because what are some of the most common strategies we're teaching students? Mindfulness, grounding, breathing, like hyper-focusing on, if we're thinking nature, on the outdoors, on staring at a tree, identifying the different textures and tones you see. And so I think it's such a nice partnership to know as a therapist, we can lean on nature-based interventions as a complement to what we're already doing. So while we're teaching students about grounding techniques just in a classroom, we can bring them outside and practice grounding techniques there. We can do some breathing in the outdoor environment, not just inside the classroom or our offices. So that's been a really great, those are great tools that we learned about from Dr. Jafari when we were able to sit in on our presentation that we've started to kind of play with and incorporate as therapists at the school, at Thurston and at the school district. So we also see digital citizenship as a need and empathy building. We've been intentional about doing mindful moments in the classroom where we're tapping into the learner profile and the importance of an empathetic citizen. And so I think when we're talking about that in the classroom, we're always encouraging students to get outside and practice empathy towards others in the outdoor environment and towards nature. And so those have been some areas that we've been spending some time on. We are so excited to introduce a well space at Thurston. The high school has one, or theirs was implemented last year. And this year in December, we had a grand opening. And part of the well space design is this biophilic design, which is the hypothesis that students have an innate connection to nature and that humans have an innate connection to nature. And so by incorporating these direct and indirect elements of nature throughout the well space, it contributes to the health and well-being. So you'll see, for example, like we have sticks and leaves and shells and rocks in there. We have sand. We have this picture I took of the palm trees that are, the outside of our well space is covered in that photograph, and students from the high school program were able to come and partner with us at the Makers Lab, and they installed that on the window of the wellness space. So that was a really amazing collaboration, and to see them just I don't know, the way they got that up there and sized everything and planned it all out was super impressive, and I got to kind of watch the whole thing develop. And then we also had students submit photography of nature to incorporate that into the wellness space, because it is their space. And that's something that if we're talking about connection and connection to nature, but connection to ourselves, our school, our community, we want the well space to be a place where they can do that. So we do that through Wellness Wednesdays. And I'll flip over actually to some of the activities we do. Wellness Wednesdays in the well space allows students to just play and practice and experiment with some of the grounding tools that we have. And then actually I'll flip back because you're welcome to scan this QR code. This lists the activities that are in the well spaces across Orange County. So not every activity from that list might be in there, but most of them are in our well spaces, and then it also explains the rationale behind why they chose those activities for the spaces. So sorry, I just wanted to pop back over so you got a chance to take a picture of that. But some of the activities that we do in our well space are Wellness Wednesdays. We also, the art teacher and I, Miss Layton, are partnering to do a series called Wisdom of the Wild, where it's a really interesting book. We're kind of adapting it to middle school age students. And for example, our activity this week was talking about this butterfly, the Morpho butterfly. Gloria, you may be aware of this butterfly. The structure of the wings are what allow the light to shine through, to where we're seeing this butterfly as blue, whereas there's no blue pigment in the wings. So we talked about that, but we combined it with that SEL piece, social emotional learning, of perspective taking, and how we might see or perceive something a certain way, but it may not always be, it may not always be that way, but it's our perception of it. So we talked about perspective taking as a group, and we just had more of an informal conversation around that, and how sometimes our perspectives can vary from our friends. It can vary from our family members, and how we can work to understand other perspectives. We talked about how things aren't always what they appear to be when we're talking about digital citizenship and social media. So we found creative ways, again, kind of like Amelia was saying, we find creative ways to make this interesting for middle school students and to tie it into social emotional learning. And then we also have a nature space out in the courtyard area that I'll bring students to, and sometimes we'll sit and talk there. And I had a student that was running around not wanting to talk, and that was the one space I could get the student to sit down and talk to me. I said, hey, why don't we just sit over here? And sure enough, the student walked over and we had a great conversation. So we're trying to utilize more outside spaces. Gloria came and led this amazing Unity Week activity, Seeds of Culture, talking about what nourishes the seed that you're planting, and then what nourishes you, and then linking that to how we can be nourished by nature and outdoor activities. So we've just been experimenting with different activities we can do and tapping into this and trying to infuse some of Dr. Jafari's research and what she'd share with our group into the activities we're doing at Thurston. So I'll pass it over to Megan so she can talk more about what the high school is doing. Thank you.
I'm gonna need that picture that you have in the well space because I want one in my space. It's amazing.
Oh, I can take one just for your space, actually. The original. Yeah, the original.
I'm Megan Humphreys. I'm the student support specialist at the high school. It's nice to see all of you. So our top referrals at LBHS are anxious symptoms, sadness or depressive symptoms, family relationships, and peer relationships. And if you look on the frequent trends or common pairings, a lot of times those symptoms don't happen by themselves. They're often connect with other pieces. And so just as the parent community, it can be nice to kind of think through like what else might my student be experiencing in that moment. So like for example, with anxious symptoms, we see a lot of connection with sadness as well. We also see a connection with peer relationships, self-esteem, body image, family relationships. So just things to keep in mind as if your child is struggling in that way. Additional trends, disordered patterns of eating. In talking with other districts, this is actually coming up across the board in many areas in Orange County of a struggle with disordered eating and body image. And then unhealthy relationships. Seeing that, I think an area I've worked on a lot with students is boundaries
and how to identify what are my boundaries in relationships, what are my boundaries in conversations, what people are talking about, how they're talking, and how to hold those boundaries. So that's an area that we're working on as well. So for me, I use more targeted interventions, as Miranda was sharing, to address these concerns. And also a huge area of support is our well space that we'll talk about. So some of that nature-based coping, when we look at some of those areas that I was talking about, I incorporate a lot of nature into those interventions. And why I put them on the screen are these are all things that we can do as a parent community to be able to support our students as well. For example, invite, don't instruct. Invite your kids into some of the things that you're doing. I think sometimes with high school students, when we share things like you need to do this that your therapist recommended, or you need to take those deep breaths, it makes them feel like they're a problem and that they need to be fixed, whether or not that was our intention or not. And so when we can do things like, I'm gonna take some deep breaths, I would love if you did it with me. You know, we're doing it together. It's an experience we're having, we're connecting. It's continuing to build that attachment as well as helping them in that moment. Modeling those calming behaviors. This is one as a parent that I consistently need to look at and work on myself. To be able to say, you know, I'm feeling really stressed and overwhelmed, I'm gonna go take a walk, because for me, being outside in nature is so helpful in calming down. Standing out and looking at the sun with my eyes closed and taking a deep breath is so grounding for me. So I can talk through those things and share, or even not verbalize it and just do those things. And as we're doing those things, it's teaching our students that they can engage in that way as well. When my child watches mom calm down by doing this, it says a lot more than telling someone to do it. So they're learning by just seeing what I'm doing. Going for walks is big. I walk with a lot of our students around the track. I think if you ever have any high school students and you're driving in the car, oftentimes conversations happen when you're in the car, right? Because we're not just staring at each other and I'm not just asking, okay, how are you doing? That can be really intimidating and I don't know what to say, but when we're not looking at each other and we're engaged in activity, whether it's in the car or walking around the track, getting fresh air, that's when a lot of these conversations happen. Using imagery. So whether or not you are outside, using nature as imagery to be able to think through is we're using the word grounding a lot. And I like to think of grounding as oftentimes we're so focused on things in the past or things in the future that we tend to forget to be present in our current moment. And when I can just like calm down and be in this moment, I can establish that right now I'm actually okay. And it helps me pause to be able to then think clearly on what do I need to do to help myself moving forward. I'm way more clear-headed after I take that pause. So things like cloud imagery, imagining our thoughts passing through the clouds. This feeling is not gonna last forever. I'm gonna place my intense thought and I'm gonna put it on a leaf and I'm gonna watch it float down the stream. It's a really helpful strategy to know that that thought isn't me. It's something I might be thinking, but I can also kind of distance myself a little bit from that. So I use a lot of imagery in that way, as well as nature visualization, incorporating the 5 senses with it, because that just brings it even stronger. So not just imagine the beach, but imagine, your feet in the sand. What do I hear? I hear the sounds of the crashing waves. I hear the birds in the sky. What do I see? I see, for me, calming is at sunset. So I see the sunset. I can create whatever image in my mind I want, whatever is gonna help me feel most relaxed and calm. And again, that creates that pause for you to be able to then proceed in more of a logical way with your thinking brain intact. Grounding walks, even if you don't have shoes on, even better to feel your feet just on the ground. And then soothing nature sounds. I went to a forest bathing walk, which was incredible. It was in Long Beach. And one thing that they had us do, which I'd never done before, is when you pause, listen to the sounds that are close and then the sounds distant. And it was such a powerful experience for me to just feel even more calm and more connected to the world around me. As I identified, like usually I'm just like, okay, what sounds do I hear? But really I had to pause and think about what are those sounds I hear far away versus up close. And so that's something I like to incorporate as well. And then this one I don't get to do, but you guys would get to do, is stargazing. Being able to see how our world is so great and so much bigger than ourselves. And sometimes that perspective taking is really helpful. And so these are all things that we can do as we invite our students to come alongside us. Miranda talked about her well space and biophilic design. For biophilic design, we use natural fibers, woven objects. We don't have any plastics. We don't have any bold colors in there. And there's a lot of research. This is some of that research on just how it impacts our stress and pain tolerance. There's studies where in hospitals you could see a brick wall versus images of nature, and you needed less pain medication and you got better faster looking at the images of nature than a brick wall. So even the research shows you don't even, I mean, we are so blessed to be in Laguna Beach, but even just the image of nature has healing properties, which is incredible. And so we incorporate a lot of that into it. And just time and time again, I have students come in and just say like, oh my gosh, it's so nice to be in here. It's so relaxing in here. It's so calming. And it's becoming more and more accessible. You know, it opened last year and at the start it was new and people would pass by and kind of not go in, and I think word has spread. Kinetic sand, who knew? Like it is, everyone wants to do the kinetic sand. But even now I have a lot more students coming in, even a lot of our older students, our high school boys, our athletic teams, they come in and they say hi and they want to just like engage for a minute, take a break. And that's the goal. The goal isn't that you necessarily come here when you are in that deep distress, although it's a helpful space for that. The goal is that you're taking breaks throughout your day so that you don't get to that place of deep distress. So it's a work in progress, but it's going well.
What rules do you have for rooms like that for the kids to come in?
So they have, there's
Assuming
open,
there's rules.
yes, there's open space before school, lunch, after school. And then if it's during class time, it has to be in communication with the teacher, as in like, if a student was in high distress, they would need to leave the classroom anyways to go talk to their school counselor, so they could come here potentially instead. So it's one-off during school time.
And noise, talking, loud, quiet.
Yeah, it's really, this kind of sets the environment, and so they kind of know coming in. The nice thing is my office is right connected to it, and so I'm there to be able to monitor, but when they walk in, they're really using quieter voices anyways and engaging the materials, and they're not on their phones. They're, you know, I haven't really had to do much, really too much in that regard as you're talking about. I'm like, oh wow, yeah. I think they're kind of coming into this space and using it as intended.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So this is really in alignment with what I do professionally. And so I work with kids in my garden, and one of their top favorite things is my little tortoises. Have you ever considered adding something like a tortoise?
I would love to add a tortoise.
Nothing on earth that's not grounding and peaceful than watching a tortoise eat. And they're 100% cows. So you can always put a little bit of lettuce, or they can go and pick clovers or grass and feed them. And I've never met a human being that hasn't directly turned into sunshine. Well,
incredible. Okay, we will be talking.
Yes,
I love this. I'm sorry?
Where's that?
So this is right next to the theater. Yeah. Great spot. Yeah. My goal is that every student knows about it, but if they don't, definitely tell them about it. Really quickly, I know I'm kind of running out of time. We have this great group called the Student Support Collective on campus, and they help with a lot of our events that we have. Their goal is to build connection with other students in any capacity, And some of the things that they do are wellness events and initiatives. So it was mentioned that we did an activity at the elementary school where we read this book called The Lump World. We talked about what unchecked industrialization looks like and how it impacted the animals in this book, and ways that we can then work to create a society where we're building empathy, we're creating environmental sustainable practices. So that was a really cool experience. And then we also do a lot of our wellness events outside. So even like at lunch, we'll have board games out. So we're building connection, but we're also doing it in an environment outdoors. Some of these pictures come from our mental health walk last year, which we're also going to have again this year, where we have all different student groups represented talking about an area that they're passionate about mental health. And we invite the whole school to be able to walk around and engage in those activities together. With that, I will welcome up Dr. Jafari. Thank you.
Thank you so much for inviting me to talk. And I was sitting there taking notes, listening to Amelia, Megan, Miranda, and Gloria. So I'm going back definitely to UCI with way more knowledge than when I walked in. So thank you so much for sharing. So I am here today to talk about the science, but I don't think that we need really science and data to prove that nature therapy works and nature therapy has a number of benefits. But because this is what I'm invited to do, that's what I'm going to do today. So I thought that I start by sharing the history behind why I'm doing what I'm doing, because you may wonder, wait a minute, she's a pharmaceutical scientist, she's with School of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences at UCI, why nature therapy? So my history doesn't start with this course that I started teaching at UCI. It actually starts from my childhood, when I pretty much grew up in the gardens and farms that my grandparents owned, and they were very hands-on. For my grandma, it was mainly like a hobby, and then it became a source of food for the village that she owned her garden at. So at a very young age, I was always like digging. My mom says that she never remembers me having clean nails and hands, and she said, "This is a girl. What am I going to do with her?" But that was pretty much my childhood. But I'm not going to talk about my childhood today. I'm talking about nature therapy. So in 2012, I started a course titled Life 101 at UCI, Life 101 Mental and Physical Self-Care. And the course was mainly in class, in person, but then I learned that if I offer it online, I can have more students. So I got a grant from University of California Office of President, and I developed a course that could be offered online and also to all UC students, on 10 UC campuses, to all students. And then eventually we put the course on Coursera.org for free. So I checked 3 days ago, and as of now, we've had 20,000 learners for this course. So really the purpose of the course is to teach our students how to improve their mental and physical health. And then one of the topics that we offer in this course, I have to change it because it's the last lecture in the course, but it's nature therapy. And I'm going to share some data with you. But what we did, because we are academics, so we have to publish, otherwise nobody believes us. So I really had to publish like 2 papers to say that this course is great and it works. So don't hold me responsible for that. So we have been publishing papers reporting that this course really helps our students to improve their mental and physical health. And then I'm the founding director of the center at UCI called UCI Center for Health Span Sciences. And in this center, we try to do community education, improving the health span, which is really the healthy years of our lifespan. And one of the topics that we offered as a webinar was on nature therapy. Nature therapy to improve, as you can see, nature therapy to improve health. And this was probably one of the most popular webinars that we presented in this center. And it was so popular that we decided to write a paper. So we are going to publish another paper summarizing this. But if anybody likes to have a video to this seminar, I'll be happy to share it with you. And then in Life 101, I had this finding that when I offered nature therapy knowledge and how to practice it to our students, this is what we saw. So students, we asked them, I practice nature therapy on a weekly basis. Before they took the course, about 280 of them said that they did, which was quite surprising because I wouldn't even expect that. And after the course, we had about a 25% increase in the weekly practice of nature therapy. And I'm not going to share too much data from this course because I want to get to our nature therapy stations. But what we discovered was that nature therapy was actually, for our students, was more beneficial or more effective than meditating or practicing mindfulness. And after this data, I actually started introducing mindfulness practices while you're doing nature therapy. And I will talk about that briefly. And then continuing on with the history, I was invited by National Academies of Sciences and Engineering to give a plenary talk on this topic, nature is medicine, or nature as medicine. And then they asked me to have a call to action. They said, you can't just come and talk about nature as medicine, you need to have a call to action. So this talk, the genesis of this talk, I gave this talk for very selfish reasons, because in my lab at UCI, I have a basic science lab. I work with fruit flies, mice, and I also do human studies, but that's my basic science lab. I work with plants, and one of the plants that I work with is Rhodiola rosea that you see here, which is grown in very Arctic cold regions. Alaska started growing Rhodiola rosea about 10 years ago, and I have been closely working with the farmers in Alaska to improve that plant. So my purpose for this talk was that the climate change and the way that we are kind of destroying our nature is eventually going to impact my research, because it's going to impact the harvesting and the agriculture of medicinal plants that we all use. And also for nature therapy. If we don't have nature, there will be no nature therapy. So the call to action in this workshop that was about 4 or 5 years ago was that we need probably to create spaces and stations on college campuses and teach students how to do nature therapy. And that resulted in a grant that I was able to receive from UCI Equity in Mental Health grant. And the premise of this grant, the focus was to develop nature wellness stations. And this is a picture of these stations, and I'm going to talk about them more. So what is nature therapy? I'm not going to spend too much time on this because everybody else covered that, and this is not an audience to go through, okay, this is the definition. But nature therapy or ecotherapy is pretty much any nature-based practices. You can walk in the nature, you can listen. And as I said, after listening to all the wonderful presentations, I'm not going to add more to it. But I want us to know that, yes, we are here. We are here in Laguna Beach Unified School District. We are talking about K to 12, students. But the thing is that even for us as adults, nature therapy can not only prevent some of the chronic diseases that we, experience, but it can also alleviate the symptoms. When I started doing this research, nature therapy research, about 2 or 3 years ago at UCI, I had no idea what nature can do to current, illnesses that we have, especially chronic diseases. And I'm going to very briefly mention them. So if I were going to say that, okay, when did this start? I wish I could say that I could give credit to Japan and say it was the forest bathing. It was the forest bathing or Shinrin-yoku. But if you review human history, nature therapy started way before that, because forest bathing in Japan is a concept that was introduced in 1982. So it's not, and I am sure that it was practiced way before that, probably for thousands of years. So it's a Japanese practice that you immerse yourself in forests and you try to use all your senses to practice nature therapy. It is not about hiking or exercising. This was a good awakening for me because I have been active pretty much all my life, but I always thought that if I'm in nature, I have to run, I have to hike, and that is not the case. It's about being, not doing. And I have to tell you that I really didn't understand this concept until I went to Japan and I visited some of these nature forest bathing stations and learned from the people who work there how to be. Because even when I'm walking and I'm technically practicing forest bathing, I'm thinking that, okay, how many steps did I get my steps in? And that was really a very, very amazing experience to learn that that's not nature forest bathing. And then, as I said, started in Japan in 1982. And I have this statement to just show you that this was a response to rising stress levels and burnout. And I don't think there is anybody in this room who thinks that we don't have a rising stress and burnout, especially among our students. Sometimes when I talk to my students at UCI, I have to really step back and say, yes, this is a college student, but last year he or she was in high school. A few years prior to that, middle school and elementary school. So we really need to start there, not wait until they get to college and say, okay, now let's teach you how to practice nature therapy. So this concept of nature deficit disorder that was introduced by Richard Love, and if you haven't read this book, Last Child in the Woods, I highly recommend this book. It's a very, very interesting book. So the concept was introduced by him, and it's not a medical diagnosis. I wish it was. If anybody in this room is interested to work with me and lobby for nature deficit disorder to become a medical diagnosis, I'll be happy to work with you. But Richard Love, Dr. Love, thinks that because of that, we are going to have diminished uses of our senses, we are having vitamin D deficiency, emotional illnesses, and a lot of other chronic diseases. So with nature principle, another concept that he introduced, the idea is to reconnect with nature in a virtual age that we all live in right now. So I am going to review the next 3 slides really fast because, again, this is not an audience that I need to go deep into this science. But we know science suggests that exposure to nature improves our mental health. Many of my students at UCI, I have noticed that everything starts with rumination. Like they start with something that may or may not be real, and then they make a big deal out of it. So we know that by nature therapy, we can improve that. And it reduces neural activity in areas of the brain that are connected with depression and psychological illnesses. And I have a couple of references on each slide, but if you Google any of these topics, you will find hundreds and hundreds of studies. And reduce stress and cortisol levels. And these are the data that have been collected in Japan's nature forest therapy stations. So these are stations that are built in these forests, right in the forest, and they have subjects coming in and they do the research and they collect data. When it comes to physical health, it reduces blood pressure and heart rate. I am going to include the movie that Gloria showed in Life 101 because I don't know how many of you have gone to the beach and you felt like you were stressed, and studies have shown that when you listen to the wave and pay attention and look at the waves, listen to the waves, and I highly recommend to do grounding, taking off your shoes and walking on the beach. You can even see it with your, devices, health devices, Apple Watch or anything, that your heart rate goes down, your blood pressure goes down. And if you have one of those, like if you are a nerd like me and you have one of these rings, you see that, oh my God, everything is like becoming calmer and less stressful. It does decrease alcohol craving, body mass index, and we have a couple of meta-analysis studies showing these physical health benefits. And when it comes to cancer, it increases natural killer cells activity and density and intracellular anti-cancer proteins. And when I was in Japan, I met this amazing nature photographer. He's an insect photographer, and he told me that he was dealing with a major illness, and he was all involved in the corporate world of Japan, working like crazy. And then finally he decided that he needs to focus on his health, and he started forest bathing. And his physicians, he said, could not believe how my biomarkers of the illness that he had were improved. So how long should we practice nature therapy? Because when I talk to my students, the question is how long? How long do I need? How long? I mean, is it like 1 hour, 2 hours? How long? And I tell them the good news is 5 minutes. And I'm going to share with you data about our nature therapy stations, but 5 minutes of exposure to nature can result in all those mental and physical benefits that you saw. And as little as 10 minutes is going to really positively impact our psychology and our mental health. And this was a study that was actually done among college students. And then you can, of course, spend more time. Like, I think it was Megan or Miranda who mentioned Heisler Beach. So this is one of my sons. I feel like he was practically raised there, because I used to take him there every weekend. So yes, I mean, if you want to stay there for 1 hour, that's fantastic. But it was at the diminishing rate, meaning that 10 minutes is great. You're going to get the benefit. Of course, if you practice it more, you will continue having the benefit, but you don't need to. So this is what I try to teach my students. And the amazing part is that they get very excited. They say, okay, 5 minutes, I can do it. But what I have noticed that they continue. I mean, they never practice it for 5 or 10 minutes. They just stay there. So, and we have a lot of data. I mean, you can Google them, you can find these studies. We have a lot of data showing how green spaces on college campuses can improve the mental health of our students. And I only picked the most recent studies. These are 2024 and this one is 2019. And they're pretty much saying that a positive relationship exists between different aspects of university campus landscape and students' mental health. So there is definitely a movement on college campuses to include more green spaces. And this is the example of what the movement that is happening. It's called Nature RX for college students. It was started at UC Berkeley and UC Davis, and I'm really hoping that UCI will join this movement. And they have published a lot of papers, and they are coming up with nature therapy prescriptions for students. So that was the introduction to what I'm going to talk about now, which is if you remember, so this is the quiz. Remember the grant that we got to develop nature therapy stations? So I'm going to show you the data. And you may wonder, why is she doing this study? Why do we need data? Because, well, I mean, we're academics, we have to collect data, we have to publish data. And believe it or not, data is very powerful, because with the data that I'm going to share with you, I'm going to go to administration at UCI and say, listen, I need to make more of these, and you need to give me more money to do that. So this is the power of data. So this is a collaborative research and educational program that was funded by, okay, that's missing, but it was funded by UCI. I collaborated, I brought 2 other colleagues, Dr. Ego and Dr. Pratt, and also the person, Matt Dines, who is in charge of NatureScape program and landscaping programs at UCI. And the reason for this collaboration is that if it was one school, it would not be as impactful as it is now. So it is really a true collaboration. And the focus is to encourage mindful interactions with nature and to improve students' mental health. But then we also decided, based on that National Academy talk, to have a citizen science project associated with that. And I'm going to explain to you what that is. And the stations can be incorporated anywhere. And my dream is to have these stations also on green spaces. Laguna Beach is nothing but green spaces in Laguna Beach. So this is where the stations are currently located at UCI. We have 5 of them. This is a little map of our campus. And the stations, I showed you a picture. So this is like the sign. It's usually very close to obviously it has to be in the green space. And then we have this QR code. We have a QR code on these stations. And because our students are busy, and if I conduct a randomized control trials, nobody is going to participate. All we are asking them is to just pick these emojis. So we ask them very simple questions. We say, how were you feeling before using the stations? And this is what they say. So as you can see, it's mainly 1 and 2, which is, mainly 3, 4, which is bad. This is before. And then after, this is what we observed. So far, you're going to see numbers because we have been collecting data for a long time, for a year and a half, but we have 746 scans total, and the data that I'm presenting is not about 746 scans, it's about the students who completed it. So this is what we have. So use of nature wellness stations instantaneously improves our students' mood. And this p-value here is striking because it shows you that this is really statistically significant. So we show that 84% of the participants who started in a negative mood reported a positive mood after using these nature wellness stations. And what do we tell them on these signs? So you don't, I had it in a previous slide, but pretty much what we are telling our students is, please turn off your phone, put it away, don't use any technology, and just spend 5 minutes looking at the nature, walking around, and do anything that you feel like is going to help you. So we are not giving them very detailed instructions, it's very general. And we ask our students, which activities did you practice while sitting at this station? And this is what they say. A lot of them just sat. Some of them focused on their breathing, they observed nature, they listened to the nature, smelled nature. One student prayed. So different types of activities. Then we asked them which activity improves your mood the most. And what we found is that it just doesn't really matter. So no matter what they do, as long as they're sitting there, as long as they're connecting with the nature, their mood is improved. Then we asked them what part of being in nature captured your attention the most. And this is what they reported. And as you can see, the sounds or lack of sounds. It's amazing that when we sometimes close our eyes, and we don't have to close our eyes, but when we start listening to the nature, what we learn. I think Miranda, see, I took like a lot of notes, but I don't remember who said what. Mentioned about these birds who were talking, and you didn't know what it was. It was Amelia. So now when I go to my backyards and I listen to the birds, I'm going to start wondering what they're talking about. The sound part. How would you describe your overall experience at these nature wellness stations? This is what they said. So really the feeling of being peaceful and calm was the main one. And then we asked them, how long did you practice it? As you can see, most students practice it for up to 10 minutes. But again, as little as 5 minutes is beneficial. How many times have you used it? Once today, and then we have other data. So when I talk to students, they say, oh, Dr. Jafari, if I scan that once, I'm not going to scan it again. So this data is not really accurate because students just keep going there, but they only scan the QR code the first time. Would you recommend the use of these nature wellness stations to a friend? And majority of them, 96% said yes. And we see that because I walk around campus. I did that actually yesterday. I look at these stations, and sometimes I see the same students. And students tell me that especially this helps them before exams. So if they have an exam at 8 a.m., they try to get there at 7:45. And it's really interesting because I tell them, you really don't need to come and sit by the sign. You can just practice it everywhere. They say, oh, no, we want to come here. So I think that's an interesting observation. So these are some of our student testimonials. And they're all saying that, majority of them are saying that it is a very competitive environment to be a college student, especially now. Many of our students are struggling with mental health issues, and they really find, as you can see with these testimonials, they find these stations very, very useful. So I'm going to end my talk with this picture, our beautiful Laguna Beach that has the potential to put, I wish I could put one of these signs in every single park, every single corner. I made this slide last night, and I was trying to find pictures online, and every single picture was copyrighted. And then I said, wait a minute, I should use my picture. So these are my pictures, and that, you know, reflects really the beauty of the town we live in. And I'm going to full disclosure, I also live here. So, so we can put these stations everywhere, and the goal is to teach our community, our students, of course, our K-12 students, but then also the parents, because as Megan said, when a student look at the parents practicing something, the chances of practicing that activity is much higher when you lecture them and when you tell them, you know, what to do. And I'm going to stop here. This is a picture that we took when you visited us, and really it all started with Gloria sending that email and saying, I want to learn more. I want to talk to you.
Very curious.
Yeah. So thank you so much, and I'll be happy to answer.
Did you have any students that got kind of anxious because they were all thinking about what they had to do instead of enjoying what was around them?
Yes.
I mean, I can see
Yes.
kind of a tightly wired person having a hard time.
Yes, we saw that in some of the comments that they wrote, and they said just like anything else, when you start practicing it, it's difficult. So what I'm planning on doing is I'm going to use some of Megan's suggestions and teach them that you can start by just visualizing. You can just start by closing your eyes, and this is something you can practice anytime. But yes, in the beginning they did experience that. Some
So
students,
maybe
not
it
all
took
of
more
them.
than once
Yes.
to do it.
Yeah.
In my experience, if there's some kind of movement associated with that rest period, it gets them back into their bodies. So I wonder if there's like a bench that you could get that's swinging.
Oh, that's a good idea. Three of these signs are in locations where there are benches. And
Those rocking benches
that
put
is-
people in their bodies.
that is actually a very good idea. You see, that's why I have to go to our administration.
Or like a little trampoline or like a little jumper. I don't know, that's not.
That university is not going to allow me. They have to sign off.
No reformers! Sign off!
No, but the rocking bench, that's a very good idea. Yeah.
Can I
And
just,
it's just amazing to see, because we didn't know what was going to happen. It's like a project, so you don't know what's going to happen. But every time I go close to one of these signs, I see students, sometimes they take off their shoes, because when I go there I said, oh, why don't you take off your shoes? But then I was told that no, you can't do that because it's not safe. So I'm being filmed, I'm not going to tell you.
I wanted to, and we were so excited, and Gloria, thank you for making this connection with UCI and Dr. Jafari and her team. We're really excited about the research that you're doing. We know that it's really impactful, and obviously our work in environmental literacy and really curating these outdoor spaces. We hope to look at the K-12 environment, just like you're looking at the college environment, and really enhance those spaces locally and be a model program. So appreciate your partnership, and we look forward to future talks with you.
You know, Michael, thank you so much for this question, because I should have ended my talk by saying that, okay, this little project started at UCI. I am very, very excited about collaborating with Laguna Beach Unified School District, and hopefully we can develop a model and a protocol to go to every single school district in California, and then my dream is nationwide. Because it is so easy to practice nature therapy, and it's so impactful.
Yeah.
I think it would be, this should also be shared with city leaders. Like, I think, if LBUSD and you and the city could work collectively on this together, because I feel like it would benefit our whole community.
Awesome. Yep.
And Emily, by the way, I do the same. I go to the beach, and And I feel so grateful. I feel like, oh my God, it's such a blessing to be right here.
Yeah.
And have the opportunity to look at the water, to look at the beach, and just
We work hard to be here, you know, so it's like,
Yeah.
it's beneficial to have gratitude for that.
Yeah.
And it also provides that sense of belonging too. And I think as students are developing, it's sometimes a struggle to find that sense of belonging, whether it's in peer relationships or connected to nature, and having that nature rooted into our facilities and how we learn, it allows that sense of belonging. That was what I shared in the beginning about how I felt a sense of belonging in my own education experience. So
I struggled my freshman year of college, and it was like every time I got to see Maine Beach after coming home because I was out of town, I'd like see the ocean, be like home, and then go see my parents, and just like that sticks with me.
Well, so if you guys have any questions, feel free to contact us. You can take a photo of our email for the FRC, and then there's also the website for more resources about the FRC.
We'll be, and just so, sorry to interrupt, we'll be following up with an email, as you guys probably know, with the copy of the presentation slide deck, and Dr. Keller's, the recording of the presentation as well, and then we can get maybe a copy of Dr. Jafari's slide deck if it's allowed. Then we would definitely share that with you as well. So please, give us an email.
So we got two big ideas on the park. So we have a parking lot over here. You guys a sticky note with you. If you want to leave us with any thoughts or ideas or reflections, we would love to have that. Tortoise, I heard.
Yeah.
Tortoises.
I got a billion more.
And a rocking bench. Okay, I'm not sure we can do that either, but we'll check into that. That's awesome. And
Can we
then
come back to the question of animals, because for my son personally it was very impactful to connect with animals in school back in Ukraine. And this idea with turtles, because we had turtles, like very great. And I do remember a couple occasions we bumped into chinchilla in the Heisler Park. And Crystal Cove, oh my God, this was just for him like
Actually, I
highlight.
have a picture. I took some.
Highlight, and I was,
But don't get
wondering,
close.
like, you shared this, stations, nature stations. Do they have animals like little rabbits or? Chinchillas, because chinchillas live in there.
We have chickens, so I work with kids in my garden in Laguna who have anxiety, who are just trying to find slowness in their lives. And we have chickens, and we have the tortoises. The tortoises are, both of them are really high impact. And we talked about incorporating chickens in the top of the world garden. I think the problem is over the summer they would just need somebody to maintain them, but they do require less maintenance than you would expect. Sorry, go ahead. Well, I was just going to say the impact on the kids with the tortoises and the catching of lizards and the being with the hawks and the birds and finding owl pellets. It is a night and day. It's like a switch for them.
Because my son like connect with something which has personality, because trees, grass, wind is all great, but something alive and discover it's made massive difference for him.
thank you for saying that. We bring it. Megan brings in some therapy dogs on occasion, so we do that. Yeah. So we really know the power and impact of taking care of another animal or another life. So appreciate.
We also partner with OCDE with Inside the Outdoors at our elementary sites, where they bring in their. It's basically like a mini zoo that they bring in, and it's all different types of reptiles but really looking to maybe expand that in the future as a goal to have more of that exposure to.
Yeah, it would be great, because my son is really, unfortunately they don't have pets, but he is really great to have fluffy, fluffy life to touch. That would be for him the best sensory therapy. He's 11 and he is in Middle School.
Okay.